So I'm going to call to order the Design Review Committee meeting of Monday, April 14, 2025. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. One nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So let the record show that we're missing John Otto, but all other committee members are present. And next on the agenda is the public forum. Any person can address the committee regarding matters that are not on today's agenda. Do we have anybody? Oh, we can't do online, so. All right, seeing none, we're going to move on to consent calendar. We have the Design Review Committee minutes of March 10th on there. Do I have a motion or any comments? Sharon, you're moving to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I have a first and a second to approve the consent calendar, which includes the minutes from March 10th. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. And let's get to item number 5A, design clearance for a shed located at 250 Hanford Street. Erin, do you want to go over the
Yes.
project description?
Yes, thank you. So the Sutter Creek Baptist Church is requesting design clearance for a proposed shed at the 250 Hanford Street. The shed is 12 by 16 and it will be located behind one of the existing buildings on the site. They're proposing it to be light gray with a white trim and have a craftsman style. I've included the plans for it. It's just a basic shed for storage. And the is not visible from Hanford Street because it is located behind the building, and the craftsman style is an allowed style within our design guidelines. It's, I said, it's just a basic tough shed type of shed. So.
You see it, do you agree that it's not visible from the road though?
You know what, I just realized that there's an error in my staff report. I have it listed as a metal roof and they are not proposing a metal roof.
So is it comp roof?
Yes,
But that's what the church is also.
yes.
Oh, this is
But the siding is,
city road and this is hand.
It's vertical,
What does that mean?
What do you guys consider city road?
Hanford? Oh, City Road, that, it's Amador City Road.
That's
It's just the Amador
Oh.
part is cut off.
behind it.
Yeah.
Sorry, can you guys make sure you use your microphones when you ask questions? Thank you. Or give motions.
And I'm not. Okay, so this is the Amador Road, which goes
And-
up behind it.
And this is Hanford.
Uh,
Is that
part-
incorrect?
Yeah, yes, it is, because, or 49, whatever you want to call it.
Yes, right, excuse me.
I walk there every day, and
Right.
they're saying,
That's it there,
yeah, I mean, this is the front.
right.
Now, if you drive up,
I guess oh, maybe that's
oh,
why.
he's here.
I thought it was fully visible, but maybe I'm wrong.
Let,
And I don't
let the record show that
think I care.
John Otto is in attendance.
so we don't care. It's fine with us.
You want to get settled in?
I move that we approve the project with the correction of the comp roof as presented with that exception.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, aye.
Opposed? John, did you
Sorry.
vote on that or no?
I said, aye,
Okay.
I'm catching up.
You're okay. So the second one on the list here, 5B is 40 Gold Dust Trail. Review plans presented and provide applicant direction for design clearance.
So I'll do a quick staff report and then you'll feel free to add to it. So the applicant, who is the Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witnesses, has requested design clearance for an exterior remodel of a building which they currently use as a church. There will be a small modification to the footprint of the building and a change to the exterior material. So with this one, the existing building does demonstrate some historical characteristics, the front part with the exposed brick and masonry work and the shutters on the building. I don't know exactly what that building was intended for or what the purpose when it was built. And it appears that over time, it has been added onto in a style that is not compatible to what is would assume is the existing building. And that doesn't really meet our design standards. So the applicant has, the plans that they have submitted are more of a craftsman style building. And it would remove some of that historical elements. So staff is kind of punting this to the DRC to give them some direction on how they could potentially maintain some of those existing historical features while making structural improvements to the building that would help with, efficiencies and things like that. So.
Okay.
Well,
Did you have any questions for me?
I kind of got caught up over here. Sorry.
Okay.
Do you want to give your analysis? first?
Sure.
Catch back up.
Yeah, for the record, Sam Sandoval in representation of Stantec Architecture, the architect of record, and the client JWCS. I think the summary of it all was pretty clear. In our intent of, preserving this historical portion of the building, if you look at the current street view image, it's that brick component that's towards the front of the building. We, in analysis of the historical design standards and the neighboring context, the only really thing that we really have to work with was that existing masonry and those shutters, which we don't presume are original. They're actually infilled of previously, infilled windows and doors that are there. That's why you kind of have that asymmetrical front facade where you have a door kind of flying out of nowhere. So our design intent was to basically keep a close of the building footprint, kind of the design being a little bit more in relationship to the neighboring buildings. And overall, that masonry building with that existing or addition stucco portion that's in the rear, basically finding a way to make it all more integrate a little bit more. Right now, it's a little bit in contrast and kind of fighting with one another. So that's basically kind of where we're at. I don't know if you guys have any suggestions or preference.
Well,
No.
well, it says in the description that you guys are adding two windows to.
Sorry, can you use the mic?
Oh, sorry.
It's for the record. That's why
Yeah,
I'm asking.
yeah, that you're adding two windows and those, are those, where are those located? It's hard for me to tell
Programmatically, in
It-
plan?
in plan
Yeah.
because these documents get greatly reduced.
No,
It's
all
hard.
good. Yeah, one of them is in a meeting room, which is the one that's on the northwest side corner. The other one is in a restroom. That one, we were thinking of making it a frosted window, if that's,
So that's
what it
it
came
from-
down to. Yeah,
Is that from the side of the restroom then?
yes,
Right, and.
yeah,
And if. Right, so you're just gonna frost the glass and call it
correct.
good, okay, all right.
Yeah,
And then there's going to be the double doors at the entry door,
yes,
which is at least, those will be glazed and you can actually see in.
Correct.
Other than that, there's no real,
operable window.
yes.
No,
No, but.
No.
I'm fine with that. I was just,
Yeah.
I don't know much about the Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah,
here,
I
so-
will say programmatically, those two windows on the front facade aren't really required. They're not a code requirement. We don't need them technically. So, I did see some of your design review comments and suggestions of, maybe integrating a shutter. It wasn't too clear if that was just a decorative shutter around the window or if that was a closed shutter condition, which if that's the case, we can certainly go that route. It's pretty flexible in what we can do here. We're not too limited on rough openings or window locations for this project.
How is the roof pitch changing in any way? Because it seems like the pitches of the two different portions of it don't match right now.
No, so the existing ones don't match. That's correct. And all the building height is remaining. All that's happening, it's basically can you zoom into that front elevation? Basically that front facade, that new addition is widening quite a bit.
So the pitch is gonna flatten out.
It's just gonna stretch out.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You know where I'm going with this?
No, I'm not sure. Go ahead. Please listen.
It just seems like you're taking a pitch situation and making it a bigger difference. Is that correct?
It's slightly, I would argue it's very minimal. And in this condition, if you, I can't see that keynote, but that keynote that's pointing to that dash line, we are integrating a 4-foot overhang condition that's happening there, kind of to cover that, requirement that requires a canopy over the main entry. So that's part of the reason the roof line is widening out a tad bit. I mean, that overhang is only 4 feet, so it's very minimal.
You said, oh, I think Otto was.
Go ahead.
Couple questions.
Yeah.
Aaron, did you do any research to go back in the history of that property?
I did not.
And did you go do any research as to the history of that property?
There was very limited information. Yeah,
But I'm not sure you saw any.
no.
Sandy, are you familiar with the history? I've reviewed the project and first question is, the rock face on that existing older portion that has the vertical openings and the vertical shutters,
Hmm.
you're representing here to replace it with a brick veneer.
Correct.
Any reason to do that?
So, I mean, from a constructability standpoint, and I don't know if we covered this already, but the current building is unoccupied. There is severe structural damage in the trusses and in the foundation currently.
And trusses, you said?
Yeah, trusses and foundation. So the client did explore a retrofit option. It just needs an extensive amount of work. And one of the main issues is the current foundation. There's a lot of water infiltration. So a part of this, renovation is to basically backfill and make it a slab on grade to align with that, previous addition that's at the rear.
So what you're implying to me is that it is actually a elevated wood frame floor?
Correct.
Okay, so did you actually crawl and decide whether it was a reinforced rock foundation or just a laid rock foundation?
We did get geotechnical reports. I don't know off the top of my head right now. Yeah.
Okay. You implied to me just a minute ago that the actual function and the floor plan of the new proposed area is not really needing windows in the restroom and the meeting room sections.
Correct.
And you've shown some rectangular horizontal sliding windows, which
Yep.
one would be in the restrooms, which you probably would black out or not have. It's a false front.
It'll be frosted.
Then I suggest you get rid of that idea.
Okay.
That would be my suggestion. Two, if you look at the building now, if we were to take a walk out there today and it was mentioned about the roof pitches and whatnot, your application indicates that you're kind of considering it in the craftsman era. And I would say it's more barn, folk era, vintage, which we have some examples right here in this area, including a red barn right here, the old Swift barn. The transformation into a craftsman bungalow or somehow doesn't make sense to me. You have that great facade with the shutters, and even if the backside of the shutters are not needed for illumination, they have a historical character that seems to resonate with the neighborhood of that period. I was not around when that was built, so I can't attest that it was part of a mining heritage or a storage heritage. But I suspect it could have been that. The masonry seems to be sound enough that it was that period. Did you look at the masonry to see if it was lime-based sampled or what kind of mortar?
I wouldn't have that information right now. No.
Okay. It almost looks like it could have been a lime-based mortar.
Okay.
And I'd like to see that personally. Character continued in Skunk Hollow. That's the generic name for the neighborhood. Has a mining boarding house history that beseeches itself pre-bungalow, pre-craftsman. I think even though you have a roof slope that's not quite as steep, proposed roof slope, not quite as steep as some of the more standards of folk Victorian or shotgun. I think it more resonates that existing portion into that category and or quote, we'll call it farmhouse if you want to. I would like to see if you put a conventional foundation in it and do slab, that the veneer not be brick, that the veneer be the indicative of a rock foundation. I would like to suggest the vertical windows, or if you don't need the windows, which I think is the case, you actually maintain those shutters and change the venue maybe from craftsman bungalow to, again, farm, barn, gold mine, motherlode approach. I don't know how the rest of the committee feels. I'm just saying that.
Thank you.
Can you go to on the other elevation on sheet? The elevation of sheet 23. It's that shows that entry. Well, maybe I'll do on the renderings. So let's go to your final proposed siding options, and that's your sheet 26. Okay, you're showing the overhang that you said is a 4-foot overhang. Say go.
What sheet?
26 on that, yes. Keep going. Be the first set of elevations. One, just a little, no,
Says it in the
keep going,
corner.
one more, go one more, the other way.
Siding option.
Yeah, there, stop. Yeah, okay, so the second elevation down there is the entry. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I see what he's.
When we're talking about roof pitches, that shows that the new roof for the new sanctuary part is going to be a steeper pitch than the current one.
I thought it was going to be less.
Oh,
I
okay,
thought it was going to be flatter.
okay. But it does show the overhang that covers that one door, not the double doors, but the single door. Is that the overhang you were talking about, or is there an overhang?
No,
Double doors.
correct. Yep.
So why is it not shown on this elevation? Or which elevation does show?
Yeah.
That doesn't show.
Yeah, the previous elevation west is actually showing the roof line extending a foot or so, which is not 4 foot over the double door.
So the condition here, it's a bit hard to depict an elevation, and that's why the RCP is there. But, you know, in this elevation, just for context, if you zoom into that top west elevation, right where that keynote is pointing at that dash line. So if we go back to the floor plan in a bit, that's basically where the inside face more or less finishes. So that the insulated portion of the exterior wall, that's the outermost face. So that siding that extends is just a wing wall to maintain
Oh,
the symmetrical of that west facade.
Got
Okay,
it.
if that's the case, I'm seeing the notation and it's hard to read it
Yeah.
small. I would, I would speculate that that's not covering the double door entry to your foyer.
No, it is.
It looks like there needs to be a lower slope. Oops. Am I wrong? Doesn't there need to be a lower slope for the,
Well,
over the porch?
well, it's a lot more than 4 feet. You have a pair of doors that's
It's right
probably a
above.
6-foot double, no,
Yeah.
go back to the same one.
Yeah.
You went too
It's the
far.
floor plan, hold
Yeah.
on. See, you can see here we're A36.
Yes,
So Aaron will point on that,
and there's a double doors
And-
to the foyer.
the wing wall. And then the dotted line is the overhang.
Correct.
So it does cover the double doors.
Okay, then if you're looking at the elevation that we're talking about,
Scroll down.
west elevation, it does not show the roof extending that far, right there. That's, to leave that one there. That
Yeah.
does not show that elevation
Exactly.
extending.
Yes,
Uh, uh,
this little area between the dotted line and the edge of the building is just a little wall. So
Yeah.
the wall of the building is in,
Yeah, if you look at the floor plan, you see that wing wall condition.
okay, so the wall of the building ends at this dotted line. And when you go look at the floor plan here, this is the dotted line and this is the additional, just a facade.
Correct.
I do see that. But if you go to the elevation of the west, it does not show an overhang that goes out far enough to cover 4 feet.
So if we go, we want to look at it. The west, so we're looking at the west elevation.
Correct?
Yes,
See that little dash line there? Yeah.
where my cursor is,
Yes.
that's where the wall on the inside of the building ends. And this little part right here is just a fake little wall, just a wing wall
Uh-huh.
to show, because if they cut that, if they ended the building where the dash line was to have the 4-foot overhang, then it would not be symmetrical across the front.
Correct.
Wow, that seems like a lot.
I think there might be some other options there.
Yeah, I mean, what about you're already doing some of the craftsmen, but you could make it like John was saying, barn. Why not do a gable over the double doors
I-
with a post?
Can I make a suggestion for the committee? Is that
Yeah,
okay?
go
So I
for it.
think maybe the first thing to decide is what of the historical features need to be saved? Because if the committee is okay with those features going away, then that changes going forward. If they want to see that front portion remain, what it looks like now, then it kind of changes how they move forward.
Well, that's hard for me personally to make that decision because I didn't do the research onto the history of that building. I can, but, whether we need to preserve the integrity of that building for me is based on the history of the building. If the building has no significant history, then the integrity is, there's no need to.
And so we
To
could
preserve it.
ask them to go back and do some research on the how the history of that building. And then I think that would help the committee make a better determination. And we have some history buffs here who might be able to point you in the right direction on how to get that information.
But I think we're already saying there's not a lot of integrity historically in the structure itself, right?
Are you tearing down like where the restroom is? That whole area, is that going to be built again?
Yeah, all that's
That whole
has to go.
section.
Yeah.
So if you're doing that, I mean, I'm with Susan, I can see just coming out, just things we did on this building that looks craftsman-y. I mean, if you don't have history to back up what's there, and you're just going to make a building that fits in, you can come out with like this entry that on this side that this side has, this is a square box of a building. And we just added some columns and porches that made it look craftsman-y from the outside. I don't think you're doing anything that looks craftsman-y there, except I presume those are two brackets
Right.
on the third point
Yeah,
there.
they're two corbels. Yep.
That are, going to do it, but with just a little bit more, you could make it look a lot more and focus on your entry.
Yeah, and I'd like to know, I mean, if that building did have some significance, give it a nod to its history, and even if you can't preserve it, maybe keep the shutters and reinstall those back on something, or consider doing a different treatment on the outside than, the shake at the top and.
Well, I agree.
Microphone.
Okay, I agree that if there is any historic, anything historic about the brick portion of the building, we should try at least to find it because I think because it is a one way to give something, some reason to move in that direction. If it doesn't have any, it's still a situation where it might be one of the more interesting elevations I've seen, in that area. And I would probably still consider it, but perhaps there's some, distance between, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I've been having a lot of trouble. I'm
You're okay.
not really.
I have a suggestion.
What's
I
that?
didn't mean to interrupt, Mike, your
What?
train of thought. Let me give you a second
Oh,
for your train
sure.
of thought.
Okay.
I've just, while he's getting train of thought. You don't live in Chicago.
I do, yes.
Oh, well, in terms of due diligence, I was going to suggest that the county archives, which is only a mile away,
Okay,
has information on almost a lot of parcels. And I, or maybe another member of this committee, would be more than happy to go to the archives with you to try and solidify the history. I'm not real familiar with history,
mhm,
but that whole Skunk Hollow area and this whole piece right in here has a rich, huge history. And the archives is rich with that kind of information. So before we negate that the old structure is not compatible or usable or significant, and or that you say that foundation wise or structural walls, is that a double width masonry wall, or what's the construction of that existing masonry wall?
I'm sorry, say that one more
Is
time.
it a 12-inch wall, an 18-inch wall?
I think it's a 12-inch wall.
It's more than a 12-inch wall?
I can't confirm that right now.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'm just thinking there's not much due diligence about the unique
No.
resource that we might be destroying.
Yeah,
The city has got an ordinance that prohibits demolitions without review because of the nature of the city. I just think a little more research. I don't want to delay your process, but I do want
Yeah.
to do our due diligence and ask you to do as much. Is there anybody representing the church that does have a historical, like, that they can do the legwork for you?
They can, and part of this where we came in, like I said, is this working? They tried to preserve this as much as possible, and they did seek out, they outsource other people to try to preserve it and retrofit it, structurally to repair it. But it was too expensive and too much work at that point. It would have been more of a Band-Aid repair than an actual solution.
It would be nice to be able to maybe have whoever did that analysis talk to the city planner and let
Mhm.
her know, get a little bit more information to her as to why.
Okay.
I think that would be good. And like John said, I don't think we want to slow anything down, but if we do have the potential to preserve a building that has maybe some historic value, That's what we're here to do. So that's kind of the charge that we've been given. And then whatever is new or added onto or renovated that or, remodeled, that it's going to be done in a manner that's respectful to that. So, Mike, do you want to add anything to that?
Not much, but I do think that if it comes down to one or the other, between this kind of elevation and what we have for an existing appearance of the building, I would rather go with the existing appearance of the building. And if it's at all possible, I think it probably, there's a reason I assume that everything's dark and it's part of their liturgy or something. And I don't know much about, I don't really know much about Jehovah's Witness, but it seems to me that if you want to keep a dark place, and it seems like if they didn't, I don't know how long, I was wondering how long it's been that they've had the church there at that location.
Well, that church has been there a long time.
Been there since I've been here for almost 50 years and it's been there the whole time.
And is it being used now?
It used to be. I think you said it's not being used.
It's not being used for that same reason. No.
Because it's not structurally.
Because
sound.
not structurally sound, right? Okay. Well, then I'm all for what you guys are talking about in terms of trying to find out the history of it is and trying to find appropriate direction. Maybe the gap can be bridged between craftsman style building and whatever this is.
No, I was just saying that
Yeah.
this is a new building that looks craftsman and that isn't reflecting that.
No.
I would rather see it, reflect whatever it was
Indeed.
historically.
Right.
I'm not aiming for that. I'm just.
Yeah.
We have some people online who like that.
Yeah. And yeah, I have a lot of comments about the little pony wall and the overhang and stuff like that. But let's get through the historic part first. And yeah, if we can continue this. So
So we have no idea that building.
that's why we want to get a little bit more information.
Sandy can go back 50 years and it was there like that.
Well, I'm not very familiar with the building. I just know that Jehovah's Witness Church has been located there as long as I've been.
Yeah, I'm going to guess that is it is clearly a historic building just because of the fact that it's on a rock foundation and it's old brick.
Right.
But the significance of it, that's
Well,
what I don't know.
Right. That's a mystery.
And, but I would agree that with Sandy that even if it has to be replaced, if it can be more similar to giving it a nod to what that was originally would be, I think, a good thing. So if that helps with giving you direction to move forward.
So is this a finish concern or just preservation of the actual brick construction?
I think if there's,
Could be both.
it could be both. Yeah. If there's, I understand if it's lost its structural integrity and it's just ridiculously expensive to fix it, I get that. And that's why I think it's important to have the contractor that reviewed it, talk to the city planner and give that background. But if there is a possibility to preserve some of that appearance, that facade, my house used to be on a rock foundation and they just poured a pony wall on the inside and then redid the floors. There are ways to do that aren't expensive and can be done. So I think it's a matter of, let's take a look at what the history of the building was. And if there's a potential to preserve it, great. If there isn't, at least with the design giving a nod back to it, to its historic nature. And if we can save those shutters or, if it is in fact historic, then that would be, I think, a good thing to do.
But that's value, if it doesn't,
If it doesn't,
then there's no nod to give it.
Exactly, but we don't know that.
No. right.
Let
That's-
me give you a
that's
little,
Exactly my point.
One thing I missed.
If-
Oh, I'm sorry. One thing I missed was in, because I was hearing different voices during.
Mike, please.
Part of it is,
You can use the microphone, please.
oh, okay, guess I can use the microphone. Is there the money to, I really didn't catch whether there's actually enough funding to restore this building back such that it's a usable building or not. Is there any idea about that?
Quite frankly, I mean, any construction project, budget is limited. And, you know, if this does anything, if you guys are familiar with the Jehovah's Witness congregation, they kind of work as their own design build, you know, they typically do everything in-house from the design, permitting, and the actual construction. So, you know, a big idea of this, you know, a big resolution would ideally be, you know, a simplified, fully enclosed building that requires very little maintenance. And that's basically their end goal with it. I mean, that structure has just been problematic as you can see its current condition now. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much kind of where we come from. We're trying our best to allude to the neighboring context. We're trying to stay within that footprint. And I mean, if it comes down to, you know, finishes, we're willing to, you know, cooperate and work together to come down to a more cohesive design for it. Before this meeting, we did have an internal call and we did discuss the option of potentially a brick veneer option. Again, kind of alluding to what was there before. I can share some graphics if.
So I think what I'm hearing is, first thing is we figure out if there's historical significance to the building. Second is, can what's there be saved? And I mean, anything can be saved, but like, what's the cost to that? And if it's cost prohibitive. And then the third, then we kind of move from there. If this building has historical significance and it wouldn't cost that much to repair what's existing, I think the committee would like to see moving in that direction. If that is not the case, and it does need a more of an overhaul, how can you do that with maintaining some of those existing historical design elements? Even if the use of the building is not historical, the appearance of it appears to be in line with a gold rush community from the 1800s.
John,
let me, if I could, yeah, I guess next to say the oldest one here, but I know people who live in Skunk Hollow, and I know the rumors from Skunk Hollow, and I know people like Frank Tordrich who grew up here. Anyway, the Skunk Hall neighborhood goes back to the gold rush and goes back to lodging of workers, etc. It was I won't call it the armpit, but it was a workers' quarters and a very working man. Now, if you travel the loop, you'll find a great deal of 20th century, 50s, whatnot in the backside. But on the front side, you'll find some real classic examples of well-maintained 1900, 1910, 1920s, and some is 1880s, okay? The barn here, the old Swift barn, which is a kind of an iconic spot, okay, is indicative that in that neighborhood, you probably had livery stables in addition to the one that is, you know, in town here. You had foundry activities, blacksmithing, let's put it this way, not Knight's Foundry type, which is very unique. And the character and the history shouldn't be that hard to try and establish. You have the assessor's parcels number that links to the archives to find out, going back in history, the ownerships, and ownerships often, like on what we used to be here, the land trust plats, indicates how long that structure has been there. It kind of shows up on some of those documents. Maybe, I don't know what happened to the land plats that used to be mounted in this community building, but they probably showed structures and their dates from there.
Susan.
Oh, it's still the museum. There's a resource. So if the other thing I was going to say is, you're from Chicago. Think about if your company has done any Jehovah's Witness projects in Oak Park, okay, what efforts, what energy has your firm taken to analyze the character of the properties in that neighborhood? They also have design standards. I would swear they have design standards.
Yeah.
John, I'm going to move you forward a little bit because
Okay.
we have to be out of the building at 6 o'clock.
I'm
So,
done. I think this should be tabled until
Yeah,
the
that's
applicant
great.
and or the design firm has an opportunity to do more research. And we may also have an opportunity to
Great.
do some research.
Okay.
so do you want a motion towards that?
Okay.
Okay.
I would move to table this particular application until a little more diligence is done by the applicant, and perhaps the city can provide some insights.
Great.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And feel free to reach out if you have any questions or comments, and we're happy to help out in the process.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your patience with us. All right, we're gonna need to jump to 5C, 190 Mahoney Mill,
Yes.
and the Gormleys are here.
Yes, so this application, we've seen, I think this is the third time that it's come back. The applicant has made changes to the design of the structure to try to incorporate some of the conditions of approval that were put on the project when it was approved last time. I don't know for sure, but my guess is that structure with all the conditions of approval might have become cost prohibitive. And so they went back to make some modifications to another structure that would fit budget and land and all of that. So the location and the variance was approved by the Planning Commission at the last meeting. And this new structure, like I said, incorporates some of the conditions and also has similar roofing materials to the existing outbuildings on the property. So the applicants are here to answer questions.
I would like to thank you for your efforts. You did put a lot of work into your package, and I think they printed it a couple of times. I don't think this agenda packet had to be quite this big if you would check your,
Oh, that went, yeah, I see. Oh, gosh, yeah.
see? So from probably 50 on, it's duplication of the first part of the package.
I don't know how that
So,
happened.
so
Okay.
the changes are, the roof is staying metal, right? And then instead of doing the board and bat wood siding that we talked about the last time, it's gonna be metal, corrugated metal siding as well.
Yeah, and it mimics board and batten in the design of the metal this time, and it's vertical. Sorry to be annoying. Can you use the microphone,
Yeah.
please?
It is vertical as well, you know,
Yeah.
so we're kind of excited to find that because it's gonna look very similar to the garage that's already there. And the house is gonna be board and batten too soon, so.
Yeah.
And this vertical roof, it's a much nicer looking structure for sure.
Yeah. It looks very, to my mind, it looks similar to, you know, it's kind of catching both the other garage and the barn that's on the site. It's
Yeah.
kind of a good mix of those.
That's the point.
And then it's on, like you see the old barns, they're on a concrete foundation. And so this one is on a concrete foundation as well,
Okay.
you know.
And you'll see that, will you not? You're gonna come up to the top of that footing and are you going to keep does the corrugated siding come down to the ground, or does it just come down to the lip of the top of the CMU?
To just the lip of that,
Yes,
symbol.
okay, so one thing that's missing on the drawings of it is you get that strong
Yeah,
horizontal line,
true.
which is neither here nor there, but yeah, just wanted.
Yeah,
and
but it's on the application, the height of the stem wall.
I assumed it was 2 feet because
Yeah.
it just looked like 3
Yeah.
courses. Right, and then and the roof, is that going to be aluminum? What is the material? I mean, it's going to be a corrugated roof.
Corrugated steel, not
It's-
aluminum.
Yeah.
That's what I
And
meant to
it's
say.
painted like gray,
And it is painted like.
Yeah.
painted like gray.
Oh, okay,
So that'll match
Yeah.
the house.
and not be too reflective by
Exactly.
doing so. Okay, great.
Always has to be.
Any other questions or comments?
I don't have any. I'm impressed.
Yay.
What's that?
She said she was impressed.
Oh, great.
So I'm just, can I call you Dave?
Yeah.
In your second paragraph, you talk about that on the new design, the corrugated siding runs vertical, okay? And you've provided, when you say corrugated siding, you said a pattern that mimics the existing. There's corrugated and there's standing seam or box seam type, and it's not clear that we have an example here. Is this true corrugated? Or is it a box or standing seam pattern?
So that picture that's up there is corrugated, where it's
Yes,
like this.
yes.
Yeah, it's-
Standing seam is flat and then has a seam and flat and then has a seam. So it's that
Some other,
that's
These
there.
are panels that.
Yeah.
But the panels are.
It's more of a,
So it's gonna look like Night Foundry.
It looks like,
Boundary.
oh, yeah. That'd be fun.
think it's either of, I mean, it's not corrugated roofing material.
No.
It's definitely still building
so it's a,
material, but
it's flat, raised.
Oh,
so my
okay.
concern is that it's actually just a raised metal panel design. You see them in, roofing, I see them in manufactured home canopies and stuff like that. Not a true when you say corrugated, that's an actual pattern.
The
okay?
wave.
It's an undulating pattern that repeats
It's
itself.
on that barn.
continually. But I didn't see a sample,
Uh-huh.
so I'm seeking
The-
clarification of what you meant in bold, the corrugated siding that'll run vertically.
Well, the last design, it was gonna run vertical
horizontal.
or horizontal, I'm sorry. And
Yes.
so that look, you guys didn't really like that look.
So you're turning it.
So I wanted to get something that, would run that way, with a lot more cohesion to what's there.
Pictures look like of the other things
Yeah,
on.
yeah, but I don't think we're talking about the same siding.
Yeah, but
I don't
it's
have
pretty
a,
close.
because they're not local to our community, I don't have a sample. We don't have a sample of the actual material. And it's similar to the corrugated siding, which that's really roofing material, but it's not identical.
So it's not just coming up and coming down, going back and forth with a curve, no straight lines within the panel. It's just a constant curve for the whole thing. And there's various places you can get it, but is that something you're wishing, John, are you wishing that had?
Well, the application is saying we're going to use the similar kind of siding materials, the corrugated that's in the existing barn or
Right.
whatnot that is
It is a
typical of
little
that.
bit different than that.
Okay,
It's
but
a
I'm
little bit
questioning
different.
whether we're actually describing the same material.
It's not identical.
It is not.
But I use the word corrugated. I put together the letter, and so my bad if that's not the actual terminology for it. But from my visual, looking online at their product, it looks like it's corrugated. It doesn't look, it's not flat. But
No.
It's not flat and angled and then flat again. That's what.
No, it's kind of like what's in the picture in the letter that has the X through it. That's covering the one that we don't like.
well,
But actually taking the metal and putting it
Vertical.
Yes.
vertically instead of horizontal.
exactly.
So I get what it is.
And they
And I'm
couldn't
fine
get
with
me, couldn't get us any full colored photos.
Yeah.
That was the best they could provide. But if you look at the images where it shows the interior, you kind of get a feel for what it looks like.
Do you have any other questions or comments? I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the project as revised. Or whatever, I don't
Second.
know,
I'll second it too.
as presented.
I think Mike beat you to it.
What's that? What's your turn? Please do. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
That's okay. So I have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Its motion carries 4-1.
Still what it is.
Thank you.
Thanks again for being patient and all your diligence with the letters and the explanations. It's very helpful for us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and item number 6 is adjournment at 5:50.
Made our deadline.
Yes, she's staying really busy. Adjourning. Yes.